Hi, my name's Carolyn and I'm here to talk to you about the Channel Country of Queensland. This area is very dear to me. There is family grazing holdings in the area. The first lease gained in 1907, and my son, who finished high school here in Brisbane last year, has now gone back to work the family property. He's fifth generation of males in the family to go back to the land, and now the area is also shared with oil and gas industry. So the grazing industry over the past 30 years has been changing with the influx of oil and gas into the area, and it causes me concern knowing that environmental hazards are there. There's a potential for disasters to occur, and I wonder how safe is my son's lifestyle, and is it going to last, or will things become contaminated beyond repair? The Channel Country is a very fragile area. It's mainly arid and semi-arid country. 90% of its rivers feed the Lake Air Basin, and it needs some type of protection, especially for the graziers whose leases hold no right against the mining companies. Now, a family grazing property has no means to check water sources for contaminants, nor would they be able to fight a large mining company should anything occur. Now, last year, Stanbroke Pastoral, which is a large holdings, it's a large grazing company, they sued a mining company after heavy rains led to the overflow of tailings piles and contaminated their channels, of which their livestock, which is cattle, would have drank from. Now, I take that as a huge red flag for the area, and I'm wondering how we can get these two industries to work together to protect the area. It's not about getting rid of the miners, but it's about working together. So the graziers in the area, they collect water in three main ways. One would be rainwater that falls on the roof, goes into the rainwater tank, and they drink that water untreated. Yes, untreated. Secondly is overland flow when it rains, and when it rains it can pour out there. It fills earthen tanks that are used for domestic and livestock purposes, as well as the channels will retain water, as other depressions will in the land too, for livestock to drink from. Thirdly is being in the artesian basin. There is artesian bores, which is water that comes to the surface under pressure, as well as subartesian water, and that's the water you see from the iconic windmill of the west, where it's pumped to the surface, and again that is used for domestic and livestock purposes. Now, all these forms have can be contaminated by the oil and gas company. There's a mini refinery about 20 kilometers away, burning methane and ethane off. So are we getting hydrocarbon burn off into the rainwater tank when it rains? The bore in the town of Eromanga, which is no longer used, it still runs like a slow running tap, and it can still be lit. Now, we have one bore on us that does bubble, but however, it hasn't been able to be lit, but we don't know why it bubbles, and being a small family grazier, it's not like we had the money to have the water tested properly. The same goes in that about 10 kilometers away is an oil field where there is evaporation pits. All oil and gas brings contaminated water to the surface, and also in that area, when there is a spill occurs, there is contaminated soil brought in, it's treated, it's dug in, but it still sits on the ground. So when it rains and the water pours for miles and miles around in these channels and over the roads, how do we know things are not leaching out of these evaporation pits or out of contaminated soil areas? Also on the property, they were asked by a prominent university to do a pasture grassland experiment, and used water from the evaporation pits to actually irrigate. So they were told the water was okay. Was it? Graziers only know basically what the oil companies tell them. There is no third party to protect them. When they mine for gas, which a huge boom is on out in the Channel Country, hydraulic fracturing is used, and that can cause cracks where in fracturing underground that will bring gas up into various wells and sub-artesian bores. It's a risk. Not to mention that they use a lot of water in the fracturing process, and the artesian basin cannot replenish itself at the same rate that the gas and oil is taking water out. So there is a very real possibility that graziers could have wells run dry. I recently asked a relative if they had noticed any changes in flows in any of their wells, and they replied a rather pessimistic, not yet, knowing that that's a very, very real possibility that that can occur. So I'm wondering, how safe is it where my son is now? The small grazier can't protect himself, does not have the means against large mining companies who can do what they want on the grazing leases. So I guess I can't really explain my concerns in such a short period of time about my son's lifestyle and about him living on land again. Like Aaron, who has concerns, saying things can be preventable based on the record in the US. I was born in Canada. I know about Canada's infamous acid rain. I too see that there's a big area for prevention for an accident does occur. I guess I really worry that there is going to be contamination and my son won't have a livelihood. And in the middle of all this, they plan on putting liquid carbon dioxide and injecting it into areas where they have removed liquids from the aquifers, and that's only experimental. This is an area that's fragile and it needs looking at now. We need to help this environment now, not tomorrow, now. Thank you.